Welcome back, NEC Hoops fans. It is the final NEC On the Run podcast of the 2021-2022 season. My name is Ron Ratner. As always, I am joined by my partner in crime, Ryan Peters, who can be found on Twitter at Pioneer_Pride. Ryan, we had a big show today, but before we even get into that, let me break down where we stand in the NEC standings. Lots of things to talk about in the final week of the regular season. We are less than a week away from the start of the at NEC BBT, NEC tournament, an all-comers event this year. What do we know? We know that 1 and 2 is going to be some combination of Wagner and Bryant. A potential winner-take-all game could be brewing in Smithfield on Saturday. Still not sure about that. It will depend on Thursday's results. LIU is locked into the 3 seed. St. Francis, Brooklyn, and Mount. One of those two teams will get the 4 seed. Mount has the edge right now. St. Francis, Brooklyn could sneak in there. Then you have Central Connecticut, who's trying to get the 5th seed. So St. Francis, Brooklyn, or Central Connecticut could be in that mix for 5-6. And then the other teams could even climb up to 6. You have FDU, St. Francis University, Sacred Heart. Am I missing anybody?
You got them all, the 3 of them. Yeah, St. Francis University, Fairleigh.
Yeah, I got them all. It's confusing. I know it is. I tried to break it down as best I can in the NEC weekly release this week. Ryan, this is the most exciting time of the year. What are your feelings entering this final week of the season?
It is, and it's kind of sad. This is the last On the Run for the year. It feels like we started doing these back in, I believe, early January. I think actually the preseason kind of played out. Everyone thought that the top tier teams would be Wagner and Bryant. They're right there. Everyone loved LIU and Mount as kind of those next contenders. They're right there. I still like St. Francis Brooklyn. I've been waxing poetic about them for a while, and here they are potentially as a 5 seed, maybe a 4 if they sneak in, especially if they beat Bryant at the Pope Center this week. And then it's just kind of a jumble down below, but there's a lot of teams that can be really feisty as underdogs in the NEC tournament.
It's always the best time. The madness comes to the NEC for a week in March. Before we even get to that, we have to sort out what happened this past weekend, an eventful weekend of NEC hoops. Let's start with LIU. Big week for them, another 2-0 week. That's clinched them the number 3 seed, chance to host the NEC tournament. Broke a string of 3 straight 9-9 years for the Sharks. What do you see in these days with Derek Kellogg and company?
Well, you want to play well deep into February and going into March. And LIU, they're rolling right now, 4 in a row. And I mentioned it last week. They're really sharing the basketball. 71 assists on their last 116 made buckets. They currently lead the NEC run in assists to turnover ratio, assists to field goals made. So they're sharing the basketball, and that's actually a great elixir for a lot of these tough defenses they may actually end up playing in the NEC tournament. When you have guys who are unselfish, who are willing to share, the ball doesn't stick, you have good fluidity offensively. That's a recipe for success. And let's just give a quick shout out to Trey Wood. He had a week. He had a big week. Played his best game, I think, as a collegiate against St. Francis University on Thursday, had 18 points in that one. And for the 2 games, he had 30 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. And really against the Mount, he set the tone defensively, had 5 steals. He was terrific. And Kendall Davis had a good week. Alex Rivera had 10 points off the bench on Saturday. When LIU and their backcourt's playing well, to supplement obviously Flowers and Penn and Conte, that's lethal. They're going to be very dangerous in the NEC tournament.
Tough to beat. Trey Wood was incredible this week. You're absolutely right. When he plays like that, it just, everything seems to, they seem to take it up a whole nother level when Trey is on his game. It was really impressive. They're going to be a handful for whoever they face in the NEC tournament. Now, a team that's not going to be in the NEC tournament this year is Merrimack, but there may not be a hotter team in the league than the Warriors right now, coming off a 3-0 week.
Yeah, the unusual 3-0 week, but just a great job by then. They sweep Sacred Heart in impressive fashion. And defensively, they really didn't play that great defensively on Saturday. They had a lead in the second half. Sacred Heart came back. We're going to talk about Tanner Thomas later. But they've been playing really good defense before that, and they've been getting great production out of Jordan Minor. I believe he's a top 5 player in this league. I would be surprised if he's not an all-conference first teamer at season's end by next week. he's had 8 double doubles in his last 12 games, blocking 25 shots. He's been really good in that span. And then, Mikey Watkins, can we call him like big game Mikey now? We're gonna get more into his heroics, in the play of the week. But I mean, he's been terrific. He's a 4-year veteran. He's unafraid of the big moment. He's made big shots before, and they're really riding high at 9-7.
At least we didn't put the jinx on Jordan Miner by interviewing him last week. He still played great this past week. Merrimack is on a roll entering the final week of the regular season, as is St. Francis Brooklyn. And let me tell you something. We know that Michael Covage and Patrick Emilian have been great, but when you add in Rob Higgins, what he did last week, it's like Trey Wood with LIU. It just gives the Terriers another dimension, and he came up huge last week.
Yeah, he's a 3-year veteran as well. He's kind of been there, done that, and he's unafraid of the big moment. He had over 20 points in that game against St. Francis University, and it wasn't only Higgins in that game. It was Larry Moreno as well. Larry, he just like the Mr. Trick Shot, I should say. He's when him and Higgins are shooting well from deep, and they give the Terriers that floor spacing element, to supplement that great mid-range game from Emilian and Covage, and obviously Wilcox can also shoot it from deep. This is a more multi-dimensional offense for Glenn Breaka, and I've said it for a few weeks now. I think they're dangerous. They could get into the 5th seed, maybe they could slip up into the 4th seed. They could definitely do some damage because they have a bunch of veterans on this group.
Yeah, we could. First of all, it's not easy going down to the Mount and winning. They did that. They made the late comeback, and they may have a return trip in their future for the first round of the NECs. It could be reversed. It could be at the Pope Center, depending on what happens this week. But that would be a matchup that I would certainly love to tune into on a quarterfinal night on March 2, right?
Yeah, who can forget the famous Jamie and Christian Glenn Breaka one?
Don't get me started on this one, please.
The Terrier. I have to remind you though, the Terriers were up. I was there courtside. I was covering that game. Being a Maryland resident back then. Terriers were up 19. I think this was 2014, if I remember correctly.
Rashad Wack era.
Yes, Terriers were up 19 with about 10 minutes left. That was Jalen Cannon, his junior. He was a great player then. And, Mount St. Mary's, they were still down 10 with 3 minutes left. But when you have Rashad Wack, when you have Julian Norfleet, they just made a feverish comeback. Sam Prescott made some free throws late in that game. There was an infamous play with too many players in the court. You can't forget that one. And then Rashad Wack just, he was Mr. Ice Water in his veins. I mean, he made that shot, that 3-pointer. I just remember him elevating over the Terrier defenders. I believe he made that shot with about 2 seconds left in the game to give them a 1-point lead and inevitably the victory. And then that catapulted them to a championship, which was remarkable. The fact that they were, could have very easily lost that game to Glenn Breaka's group.
Yeah, look, Mountain St. Francis Brooklyn this year, 2 dangerous teams, definitely have designs of moving deep into the NEC tournament. We'll see how it all plays out on Thursday, Saturday. We'll talk about some of those big games coming up later in the show, but those are our weekend takeaways. We are joined by a very special guest today, Wagner College grad student Elijah Ford. Elijah, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for having me, Ron.
Okay, Elijah, let's get started. First of all, let's get a medical update from you. How are you doing? How's the knee doing? What's the prognosis look like moving forward for you?
5 days out of surgery. First day in rehab today. I guess you can say I beat him up today. Yeah, I'm doing well though. My doctor said the surgery went great. So now it's just on the rehab.
Yeah, Elijah, how has the transition gone from being obviously a very important player for Wagner, playing 35 minutes a game, to becoming kind of a coach, a motivator, encourager for your teammates? How has that gone? And have you actually taken on some of the coaching responsibilities during practice and game preparation to help your teammates?
Nah, that's still me. I was just basically on the court now, but the difference is I'm just not getting tired now. I still talk to my team just like I'll talk to them if I will be out there. They know I'm still be on them 150%. And of course, like I said, I'm gonna be the biggest cheerleader on or off the court. So I wouldn't say the process has been tough or anything. And the guys and the coaches been very helpful with this transaction. So that's
Yeah, I mean,
good.
there's no doubt, the energy that you bring to Wagner is special, whether you're on the floor, whether you're on the bench, and I've always admired that of your game, your enthusiasm, how much joy you take into playing. I just have to know, like, when you were actually playing, you had that lefty windmill jam against, I believe it was LIU, right? And
St. Francis Brooklyn. St. Francis
St.
Brooklyn.
Francis Brooklyn, my fault. So and it came on a breakaway. Did you plan that windmill jam? And I feel like when you do these jams, you're just trying to energize your teammates, right? You're kind of there for the show to get your bench up and roaring, get the crowd going. It seems like you kind of embody that energy. Take me through that process.
Honestly, like, everybody don't believe me, but I promise you I wanted to windmill on him, actually. And I told everybody on my team, like, the only saddened thing about that play was that he didn't jump. Like, he ran so fast, and I'm like, I gotta catch him. Like, this one has to be it. Like, and I was just sad he didn't jump, but yeah, I planned that windmill for sure.
Yeah. And do you take joy in making these highlight reel plays for your teammates? Because I feel like sometimes you just want to get above the rim just to get your teammates going.
Yeah, most of the times, because honestly, I started dunking more this season because of Al. Like, he know I got the most bounce, so he used to, like, make jokes and be like, "Oh, you do all this dunking, but I don't see nothing during the game." So that was just, like, always my mentality. Like, even from the start of the season, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna dunk everything. Like, if I can, I'm gonna dunk it. But yeah, I already see that it does give them emotions and, like, energy. So yeah, I like doing that.
I want to get back to the dunks a little bit, Elijah. Let's go in a different direction. Before the Mount St. Mary's game, it was the first one that you missed as a player. Were you aware that Coach Mason had your jersey on underneath his pullover?
No, everybody told, because when I first came down, my jersey wasn't there. And I told them, like, before the game, I'm like, yo, look, I'm suiting up today. I don't care, like, if I'm limping out, but I'm suiting up today. So Bob was like, you know what? We're going to get it to you at 13. So 13 is when we actually come back upstairs with our jerseys on and everything. So we finally go back downstairs. I'm telling everybody, I'm like, yo, where's my jersey? Like, you know what? Scott going to get it. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to play. I'm not going to do it today. I'll try it another day. And then when it got down to the 4-minute mark, he's like, because honestly, I didn't know, but when it got to the 4-minute mark, I seen him, like, just messing with his chest. I'm like, what's going on? And then he just ripped it off. And that was just, like, a good moment for me.
What is Coach Mason meant to you, not only in your Wagner career, but how has he shaped you as a person?
Honestly, I text him, I say right after I got the results from my knee, and I thanked him because honestly, don't nobody notice, but I came on here as an unofficial visit. So nothing was official. And he took a chance on me. And even my first year here wasn't the greatest year that Wagner had. Like, that was by far the worst year. And that's him taking a chance on me. He still, like, did it again. It was like, you know what? Like, this one gonna be it. And I thank him again. And I'm gonna thank you again, Coach. Thank you for bringing me on this team.
Yeah, Elijah, let's go back to that first year because, you got off to a solid start in the non-conference, but then you hit a major lull when you started league play. I'm gonna read to your point totals in your first 5 NEC games ever. Okay, ready?
Uh-oh.
0, 2, 2, 2, and 0 in your first 5 NEC games. But then you guys host LIU, you get 16 and 8, and then pretty much you went from basically a non-factor to an above average contributor as a junior. What do you remember what actually clicked for you in that moment, or was it catching to Division I? How did you get to that level where you became an above average guy midway through the season?
Honestly, my problem was never like a on the court thing. It was like I said, that's why I actually thank Coach for, like, actually building me up as a man, because he told me, like, it's like the way I'm carrying myself that's going to show on the court. And I felt as though, like, I changed. Like, honestly, I probably don't know, but before y'all found me out, I was an angry guy. I was always angry, just mad at everything, because coming into Wagner, I lost my grandmother, so it's like a lot of tension build up. But then my coach is just like, yo, you gotta, like, you are the energy guy. Like, if we're here, if your energy is here, like, we're here. If your energy is there, it's there. And I seen that my first year. So my second year coming back, I'm like, nah, it's over. And that's what happened in those last 6 NEC games. My energy just changed. I just put in a positive mindset, and that's been there since that game, the last 0 game.
Yeah, and then, I talked about more of the offense, but the defense, I don't think many people know this, even the people who follow the NEC closely, but you've actually led the league in both steal rate and block rate each of the last 2 seasons, which I think is a phenomenal stat and kind of shows how you've matured defensively. Again, talk about how that progression, I thought you this year before you got hurt, you were a great help defender. You had a lot of great blocks coming off the guy and saving your guy who was beat. You had that one on Patrick Emilian against St. Francis Brooklyn late in the game. Talk about the defensive progression. You basically your senior year became a great all-around player.
Literally, that's just what I'm a junkyard dog. I mess stuff up. But if I feel, and sometimes it could bleed, you could say undisciplined, or sometimes, like you said, it can help away. But I feel as though I just like try to see plays before it happens, even if it like don't happen that way. But most of the times I get them correct because I'm either faster than the person I'm guarding. I could help and run back to the other person, which is putting me in an advantage. A big guard that can guard a guard possession and actually can guard, I say, a big too. So it helps me out in multiple possessions. So honestly, I just like watch the floor. I just try to fill things out, really.
Well, we are super proud of everything that you've done this year and your teammates. We look forward to watching Wagner this week and then into the playoffs. And we'll be watching you being the biggest cheerleader there is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks. That was Elijah Boogie Ford from Wagner College. Thanks for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me.
It's our under the radar player of the week. And Ryan, we talk about being under the radar. This was well under the radar. This one came out of nowhere. Tanner Thomas, not only did he have himself a game, he had himself one of the best games you will see in the NEC this season. Please break this one down for me.
I don't know if I can. I had to go back. I didn't watch the game live. I had to go back and watch every single Tanner Thomas bucket because, 26 points on 11 shots. He had 5 rebounds, 2 assists. He only played 23 minutes, Ron, and he still had 26 points. But his post game, man, was really impressive. Just had a pristine footwork, a bevy of post moves. He made some tough shots over Jordan Minor, who we know is one of the better defending 5s in this league. It was a crazy breakout for him. But even before this great 26-point effort, we kind of saw snippets of Tanner before. He's played well in limited minutes, especially of late. He's got a Ken Pom offensive rating of 122, which is very good. So I think, moving forward, this is positive for Anthony Latina. You could kind of pair him with Nico Gillette and Bryce Johnson as your front court of the future. I know Raymond Espana Guzman is not a walk-on, but a redshirt freshman that Anthony is very high on coming into next year. So they have a nice young front court of the future for Sacred Heart.
Tanner Thomas, the NEC Rookie of the Week and the go-to player down the stretch. He almost had the game winner in that game with 9 seconds to go. But what a week it was for Tanner Thomas, one of the Thomas brothers on Sacred Heart. It's our final NEC Star Watch of the season, and this is Mrs. Ratner. Might be one of her favorite players in the league. She loves Nigel Scantleberry, and I know you do too. And he comes off a big week and had a great game against Wagner last week.
He did. I was up close and personal seeing him courtside on Saturday, and he was fantastic. 20 points, 3 assists, and he's so good at getting downhill. And Pat Sellers just does such a great job of utilizing him in ball screens. And the thing with Scantleberry, too, is he's a great pull-up shooter, especially from 3. That's typically not an efficient shot if you dig into the analytics, but he is comfortable making that shot, kind of the pull-up. Typically, you want rhythm jumpers, you want that catch and shoot, but Scantleberry has that playmaking ability. He's an elite playmaker in this league. And the reason why I think he's perfect for the Star Watch is I would be stunned if he's not an all-conference, at least third-teamer by next week. He's had a great year for Central Connecticut. He's a dynamic guard, and as I said before, he's a big player, especially when you get him into the lane.
A veteran presence on a young Central team, Nigel Scantleberry, our Star Watch performer of the week. Ryan, we alluded to our play of the week before. It is Mr. Big Shot himself, Mikey Watkins, icing matters against Sacred Heart on Saturday in North Andover.
Yeah, I selected this play because it was high in the scale of clutchness, big game Mikey again, but Merrimack's down 1, about 8 seconds left, and Mikey Watkins needed literally just 5 seconds to go coast to coast and turn a 1-point deficit into a 1-point victory. He just reads his pick and roll perfectly, kind of busts out a subtle misdirection move, and then he's got the lane to finish. And then Sacred Heart, to their credit, they recover. So Watkins had to be a little bit acrobatic in his finish, but just really strong to the rim, finishes, and then they get the job done on the other end defensively, and it's just another great win for Merrimack.
Savvy as always, Mikey Watkins with our play of the week. We hit our milestones now. Let's start with Charles Pride from Bryant.
Just another milestone for Mr. Sour Patch Chuck. I guess I shouldn't say Mr. Sour Patch Chuck. He is just Sour Patch Chuck, but he's asserted himself as one of the best players in the league, eclipsing the 1,000-point threshold on Saturday versus FTU, and he becomes the 7th player in Bryant's Division I history to eclipse that mark. Congratulations to Charles.
Also the 243rd player in NEC history. Also want to throw a couple shout outs to Central Connecticut's Ian Christian. He scored his 1,000th point earlier this year, netted his 203 pointer last week. And also Jordan Miner from Merrimack pulled down his 500th rebound. Bunch of milestones as we head into the final week of NEC regular season play. We've played 2 months of NEC games. We are down to the final 10. Ryan, let's look at a couple of them to watch this week. Let's start with our CBS Sports Network game at Fairleigh Dickinson, 6 p.m. They host Wagner. Now, the implications of this game is if Wagner wins and Bryant loses, Wagner could clinch the number 1 seed on Thursday before the two teams even meet on Saturday.
Yeah, and the Fighting Horrendous have been feisty at home this season in league play, winning 2 games, and they've dropped several others at the Rothman, very close games that have gone down to the wire. And this freshman dominated roster, they'll have upset on their minds in an attempt to prevent Wagner, as you said, from clinching at least a share of the NEC regular season title. It's going to come down to Fairleigh Dickinson was a little out physical, a little outmanned in that first game at the Spiro Center. Wagner, I believe, won that game by 30 points. So they're going to come out fighting. Fairleigh Dickinson. I would not be surprised. If they make it close, you keep it close. They make shots. Watch out for Oscar Berry and Devin Dunn. They have a chance.
Moving on to Saturday, we touched on it. Wagner at Bryant, one of the potentially biggest games we have seen in these parts in a long time. We've had some of them, late in the season, but this one, boy, if I could just put that crystal ball and get this one to work out where the winner is the NEC champion and the number 1 seed on the final day, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the classic back in January where Bryant had a 4-point lead with about 45 seconds left in regulation. Wagner comes back, they get the Peter Kiss turnover, tie it, and then they end up winning it in overtime. And Wagner in that game, they dominated Bryant in points in the paint. They had 20 more points. They had 20 more points in fast break opportunities. But right now, Bryant, their offense really is clicking on all cylinders. They have one of the best, probably the best scoring duo in the country in Charles Pride and Peter Kiss. So I'm curious to see how Bashir Mason, he's been mixing up his defenses a lot, going man, going zone. I'm curious how they're going to try to slow down Kiss because he is on quite a run right now.
Amazing. And something we haven't seen since the Charles Jones days of LIU, somebody who scores almost at will. I pointed out in our weekly announcement this week, all the superlatives that Peter Kiss has done in the 8 30-point games and 5 in a row and 9 in a row, 25 points. I mean, they're staggering numbers. We'll see what Wagner can do with that. Should be a good one. Bryant's been drawing some big crowds at the Chase. This one will be bonkers. I can't wait. Saturday, 4 p.m., Wagner at Bryant. We'll see how it goes as we close out. That will be the game to close out the regular season, the lone 4 p.m. game on Saturday. 2 days later, we are at the NEC BBT opening round game Monday, 8 versus 9. But for the regular season, aside from the CBS games, you can watch everything else on NEC Front Row and the NEC On the Run series of apps. Ryan, I have to thank you for being not only the Overtime blog contributor, but for being my partner on these shows. You've put up with me and the constant retakes. It's all seamless when Kyle Turner from the NEC cuts this thing up, but we've had some massive taping sessions. This was one of them. I look forward to talking with you, during the playoffs Maybe we can do little things here and there, but next season we will be back yet again for another season of NEC on the Run.
Yeah, I can't wait for February 28th, that opening round game. And then March 2nd is going to be a special time. Some great games. The NEC quarterfinals will be then. And we have a lot of great teams. We have our heavyweights, we have our underdogs, we have our dark horses. It's going to be a really fun tournament. Can't wait.
Thanks to you, the fans who stuck with us all year, and we will see you at the tournament.